It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. Happy New Year, everybody. We are moving into a Wednesday, already to the 3rd of January.
Now, that's the one thing.
Yeah.
I had no idea what day it was, any day that we were out, that we were on vacation.
Yeah.
I wake up going, what day is it?
No,
I have no idea.
I had, some things going on, and there were a couple of, actually 3 times when I was up for, about 24 hours. Just some family things going on. Nothing too serious. Everybody's okay. But so I didn't really sleep much. But during those periods, it was like, okay, get me a calendar because I don't even know where I'm at. What year are we in? But it was great. So how was your trip? How was your
was really good. Just thank you to all of our listeners. I posted a picture on Christmas with my father and myself.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And
awesome.
A lot of people commented on it. He's doing great. I mean, he had a fall before.
Yeah.
He actually fell on his face, but it was on the carpeting.
Oh.
But because of the medication, everything he's on, he bruises so easily.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's funny because actually the picture that I took, it looks like just a shadow, but the shadow's actually on his face.
Yeah.
The bruise, and it looks way worse than it is.
Yeah.
Because well, I'm sure it's better now because I've been, I came back, a week ago. But it was, you look at it, you go, are you okay? And he starts talking like, oh, you're fine. You think it's affecting the muscles. Any pain? He goes, no, there was a little bit. He goes, but it's all going to drain out. But anywhere where you really hit the skin and everything, it just bruises so easily.
Yeah,
It's worse. But he was great. We had a great time. I just can't. I communicated with her. The listener who came from Virginia.
Oh,
fan of the show.
Yeah,
came from Virginia.
Yeah,
and I missed by 5 minutes at Marty's, the breakfast place we went to.
Wow.
So it's like a couple of people actually came in looking for me.
Yeah, right.
In Western New York.
Any of them wearing a badge? No?
The what?
Any of them wearing a badge?
No.
Good.
No, I'm
good. You're in good shape then.
I'm not a rule breaker.
Yeah, what are you, a cop?
What are you, a cop?
What are you, a cop? Coffee with a criminal. There's a conversation.
So no, it was and we did our usual where we were almost the last ones there, and so we sang, we wish you a Merry Christmas to everybody at the restaurant there. It's become a tradition if I'm back on Christmas Eve. But no, it was all really, really good. The only time, because I got Wednesday, I told you that Wednesday, because I was up so early in the morning last Wednesday.
Yeah.
But I have all these plans when I'm going to do this. I get home after traveling early in the morning. I sat in the recliner all day.
Yeah.
That was
you had to get up at like 2 to leave?
Yeah, I had to get up at 2 in the morning to leave.
Nothing good happens at 2 in the morning.
No, I had an early flight, and I went to bed like 11:30.
Yeah.
So, but it was still, and so last Wednesday was a wipeout. And then Thursday and Friday, it's just, because the weather was nice, it was like, I'm going to work out. I bike ride, all the other working out stuff that I do, did a lot of hiking and everything else. But I wanted to get back. I mean, I'm not ready for retirement, I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
After being off, I'm like, I'm not ready for the.
I was bored.
Not that I'm retiring. I just said I'm not ready for it.
Yeah, I looked. I was Christmas Eve. I started coming down with a little bit of a cough, sinus infection, no COVID. That was my hobby though. My new hobby that I picked up on Christmas vacation was doing COVID tests. I went through a slew of them. I just wanted to make sure. And also I was bored. And so Christmas Eve started feeling, okay, then Christmas Day. And that's when our family came over. We had our thing on Christmas Eve. Christmas Day was like quiet. We didn't do a thing. And we had a ton of leftovers left, so we didn't even cook I mean, it was just great. It was really great. And then the cough just started getting worse, and it's sinus infection, upper respiratory thing. But so I didn't go see my parents, and that's the only thing that didn't happen that I regret, because I just can't take this to their doorstep. I called them on Christmas morning, and they were like, yeah, you sound horrible. Stay away. So hopefully we'll be able to get down there, I think, in the next couple of weeks. It was whatever I've got is holding on, but it hasn't been as bad as when I was sick in October. So not too bad. And got caught up on a TV show, which is rare. It's really the only time of year that I can do that. If I either have to be sick or it has to be that long vacation at the end of the year. But the new season of Reacher on Amazon, got caught up on that. My wife got caught up on season 1. And so Alan Ritchson is really great as Reacher. It's just an enjoyable
and I never
show.
And when I heard Amazon was going to do it, I went, see, you can't.
I kind of did the same.
Yeah, you can't beat Cruz on that.
Yeah.
He can.
And
he
look,
really can.
it's
and I love the Reacher with Cruz too. I mean, I don't like.
I think they were both really great movies. The one thing that the diehard book fans are were screaming about then is the fact that Tom Cruise isn't the tallest guy, and part of the entire it's written around. At one point they call him, I think, in the show, Jolly Green Giant. And I mean the fact that Reacher is 6'5". I think that's accurate for the book too. I know Alan Ritchson is 6'5", but the purists say, well, no, and they have a good point. It's written around the fact that he's just towering over everybody. Mm-hmm. That when he's just one of these, he's a presence. If he stands up, then it's like, oh man, what did I get myself into? If you're standing there next to him, that kind of thing. But they really did a very, very good job. I noticed some Easter eggs, and that were in the show. One of them in the new season, they make a reference to Aquaman, and Alan Ritchson on the show Smallville years ago played Aquaman in 1 or 2 episodes.
Oh, wow.
And Smallville was about a young Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a couple of other references that were clearly written into the show, giving a nod to, different things and different projects that the actors have been in. And so it was, it's one of those, my dad loved, still loves, detective shows as a former military cop. And this one especially is, because he's a military investigator. He's no longer in the military, but he's retired and he's a military investigator.
Don't mess with the special investigators.
That's right. Absolutely.
I'm only up to 3, but I was 3. I have. Let me see. I just started 4. The fourth hour. So 4, 5, and then 6 comes out this Thursday. So a couple more weeks to.
They had taken episode 1 of season 2 down, and I went to Reddit, and there were 2 different stories about what was going on. This was on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And it, because we went there, it's like, okay, my wife and I pulled it up. It says episode 1 unavailable. The others 2, 3, and I think 4 at that time were available. And I was like, well, what's the deal? I went to Reddit, and one person claimed that Amazon said the distributor pulled it for editing purposes or something. And then another thread on Reddit said that it was about some technical issues. So I don't know why. I don't know. I would think that if they pulled it because somebody objected to something, that's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for a story around it going, because it's huge on Amazon. It's getting massive views.
Well, something, and I started thinking, why?
Yeah.
Why is Reacher so popular? And I started thinking about all the things that we talk about. Look, we have said that the problem in politics today is not that politicians lie, but the public is willing to accept the lies.
Right, yeah.
And you look at somebody like the character of Reacher, who is huge,
Yeah.
but cannot be bought.
Right.
Cannot be bought. And in the one part to begin season 2, I won't go into it specifically, where he stops at one crime.
Right. Yeah.
And then says, "Who are you?" "I'm someone who doesn't want to get involved."
Right.
You don't want to get involved, but you're always involved.
Right.
He's always involved. I mean, he views himself as a citizen who has a responsibility to stop bad things from happening,
as opposed to an authority who can just come in and take command of some situation. That's a good point.
And I thought, I go, is that what it is? Is the public longing for not the imagery and the substance of somebody who is being straight with them, believes, in the law, and wants always to do the right thing, and at the same time has his own unique quirks as to what freedom is. Because the next thing I'm expecting him to do is van life. No, but
right.
I mean, it's like, and he talked about that freedom to him.
Yeah, right.
Freedom to him was just not even having a change of clothes.
Right.
Because if you have a change of clothes, if you're not always drifting, if you have a change of clothes, that means you need something to put
a suitcase.
You need a suitcase.
You got a suitcase, you need a house. If you get a house, you need to have a car in the driveway.
Right. And so he goes into what he believes, which I admit is a very people might look at that and just like they did van life and go, "Oh, van life's great and it's all simple." And then you see all these people a couple of years after COVID saying, "Well, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, no matter how you try to get away from civilization, you really can't."
Yeah.
You're tied to it because everything that you use is technical and has to be repaired, and odds are when you're out on your own, it has to be repaired.
It's a lot of work.
And there's not a lot of people close to repair it.
We just bought an RV. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
When you're traveling and when you're not traveling, you got to maintain it. There's a lot of things going on, and it's not, look, there are a lot of people that are nomads, but really for the most part, as a society, we like to have a home base. We like to have that sure footing. I have a friend who travels a lot on a boat, and I mean a lot, like globally. And he loves the stops where he can pull in and for a couple of days be on dry land. And he says, just having some earth under my feet, and I think that's, if you were to look at Reacher, the character of Reacher, I was trying to, pin him. I was like, okay, wait a minute. He really is kind of a libertarian. If he came across some young people who were protesting something, he'd just say, "I don't care," and keep walking. I don't care.
Right.
You need to do. No, I don't.
Right. As long as you're not physically harming somebody.
That's it.
Right.
And that's pretty much it. Live and let live kind of character that ends up somehow getting involved in every situation in the small town. But it is refreshing to see that they are still producing, something like that, because we've talked about how, and comedians have talked about how you can't do the comedies, that have been made even in recent years. They said, look, a movie like The Hangover, you're just getting, the studios are done doing that kind of, they want a bigger purpose for their movies. Well, to me, there's no greater purpose than comedy. I love comedy. Do a great, funny movie. Make it as insane as it can be. I thought Crazy Rich Asians was hilarious. Loved that movie. Yeah, and it was huge. It was huge. And I hadn't seen it. I didn't know what the talk was all about. And then we rented it one night, and I was like, oh, my gosh, that was hilarious. Just do a movie for the sake of comedy. Do a movie for the sake of action. This is one thing that Tom Cruise has proven over and over again. And that's that's what it comes down to. when you look at the Mission Impossibles or, the new Top Gun, these were movies that were done right for the sake of what? Being a great movie, being a great escape, being that movie that's, where you're following the character lines and everything else, which is great, but the action or the comedy is the point, and they deliver. And if Hollywood is losing that, you're going to see a lot more mergers coming soon. I think the thing with Warner Brothers, Discovery, and Paramount could be just the beginning of major mergers, and let's hope that they're getting the message from people who actually give them their money.
A lot of things happened while we were on vacation. We'll get to that first before we get to the stuff for this week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some of it bleeds over to this week anyway.
Yeah.
That and more, all coming up, 866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
This preventative maintenance tip is brought to you by Hot Shot Secret, the country's #1 fastest growing oil and additive company. If you've been driving a diesel any length of time, you know diesel fuel quality can be an issue. There are U.S. standards that diesel fuel is supposed to meet, like cetane number, lubricity, aka wear protection, deposit control, but oftentimes the fuel at the pump falls short. Let's highlight diesel fuel's cetane number. In most states, the minimum cetane number across the nation is between 42 and 45, and most modern engines are built and tuned to operate with the best cetane number closer to 50. If your truck has a low cetane rated diesel, you'll often be able to tell. Cetane improves starting in the cold. Fuel does not burn as efficiently, which means more soot output, less power, and lower fuel economy. This is why a premium additive is needed to keep cetane numbers up, to keep the engine operating at its best while helping with cold starts, fuel economy, and DPF regeneration cycles. Add Hot Shot Secret EDT Plus Winter Defense, a 7-in-1 anti-gel fuel booster at every fill-up to keep cetane numbers in a premium range while also protecting you from gelling. Learn more about the science behind diesel fuel and Hot Shot Secret's EDT Plus Winter Defense at hotshotsecret.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's really nice. I mean,
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, President Gay is no longer President Gay of Harvard. That happened that happened yesterday.
What I thought was interesting during our break is the students that were basically defending her on plagiarism, and I thought, okay, is everybody paying attention here? The students who have to turn in a lot of papers are saying, "Oh, come on, plagiarism isn't so bad." Sound like somebody's trying to get a passing grade. But there was once the plagiarism thing kept getting worse and worse, I thought, okay, the clock is ticking. And eventually the pressure will be too great.
You ready for this? Quickly, we can play this here.
All right.
This is CNN reporter Matt Egan on it. All right, listen to this here.
These plagiarism allegations, where Claudine Gay has had to issue corrections, multiple corrections. Now, we should note that Claudine Gay has not been accused of stealing anyone's ideas in any of her writings. She's been accused of sort of more like copying other people's writings without attribution. So it's been more sloppy attribution than stealing anyone.
That's plagiarism.
Yeah. If Fox News went in and stole someone's article from CNN.com and put it at FoxNews.com, would you say the same thing? That's plagiarism. Well, listen, one man's plagiarism is just another man's work. Let's be clear.
Call in and get a word in edgewise. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara on Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight.
And thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And we hope everybody had a great Christmas and New Year's. Yeah.
All right, two editorials I'm looking at here.
Mm-hmm.
President Claudine Gay falls at Harvard. Her resignation offers a chance for an educational reset. And then National Review, Claudine Gay's resignation won't solve Harvard's problems. I had said this, and I wanted to make sure that I put it in the proper context when I said it. But when she did not step down, I said good.
Yeah.
Because if she steps down, you still have the racist infrastructure that we've talked about, the identity politics, which is identity politics is racist. What they believe, the anti-race, when you had Kendi come up and say this is all racial chaos. Well, critical race theory, the anti-racism that they call it is racism.
Yeah.
You know, it's like secure borders means not secure borders. Nothing means what it's supposed to mean.
Right.
And so what you have seen at Harvard, the reason that she is gone is with the plagiarism and everything else, it wasn't going to end.
Right.
And more examples kept coming up. What was it, 50 or whatever? And you can make whatever excuse that you want. But we had said this before we went on vacation. You and I looked at each other on the air and said, she's not going to be president very soon.
Right. Yeah, it was, look, that pressure was going to keep building. And it wasn't just the plagiarism. It's just that the plagiarism wasn't going to let it go away. The other issue was going to stay on the table. And you know, the one editorial there, it's not going to solve Harvard's problems. And it won't. It will take many years of this kind of pressure of, you know, where you have major donors pulling back going, no, we want to know. You know, one thing that you will have, and it's just any philanthropist, the major philanthropists now almost insist on getting a seat on the board of directors for whatever organization if they don't, you know, if it's not one they started. They want to know what the real mission statement is. And I think now with these schools, there's a greater likelihood, I can't measure to what extent, but there's certainly a greater likelihood of major donors looking at it going, we want to keep our eye on what's going on at these schools and what's being taught and what kind of indoctrination these students are going through and what the actual mission statement of a school is like this. Because when you talk about Harvard, you know, oh, well, that's the elitist school. Well, there are still plenty of, you know, people out there that will tell you, well, the Harvard law program is still the greatest law program in the country or whatever. Well, for those that are supporting those schools in whatever way, I think there's going to be a greater pressure going forward. I hope that is the case, that those schools have to be true to their mission. It has to be about an education. I don't have great confidence it's going to last for long because this is not some kind of, you know, the thing is that these schools, and we've talked about this for years, even within a presidential administration, it's not necessarily that it's a big conspiracy. It's the same culture and mindset. That's the difference. Can you change the culture and the mindset? Well, you can't overnight, but you can, as a society, reject the radicals. And I'm hopeful that we will start doing that more and more to the extent where that behavior changes.
Well, I hope so, too, that you see that the donors say, look, this has to stop. We cannot continue endorsing these things that we're endorsing.
Yeah.
Because in her resignation, for example, she basically says the critics of her are racist when actually she's the racist.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see some of the things that she actually wrote here it is. It has been distressing to have doubt cast on my commitments to confronting hate and upholding scholarly rigor, two bedrock values that are fundamental to who I am, and frightening to be subjected to personal attacks and threats fueled by racist animus. Well, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so is she apologizing? No. What she is saying is she was forced out by racists. She said these last weeks have helped make clear the work we need to do to build that future, to combat bias and hate in all of its form, to create a learning environment in which we respect each other's dignity and we treat one another with compassion, and to affirm our enduring commitment to open inquiry and free expression in the pursuit of truth. That is the biggest pile of horse manure coming from her that you could possibly ever imagine, or coming from Harvard, where she said, I believe that we have within us, all of us, we need to heal from this period of tension and division to emerge stronger. I had hoped with all my heart to lead us on that journey in partnership with all that is you. Look, the first thing that came about is when all three of the presidents came out and they were using, freedom of speech and freedom of speech. That wasn't the question that was being asked. Right. It's that, is this in your code of conduct, and would you allow this? Would you allow this with anything else? And they gave the wrong answer.
Yeah.
They gave the wrong, and when they used the freedom of speech thing, you and I immediately said, well, this isn't a freedom of speech issue. This is a code of conduct issue.
Right.
Would you say the same thing? And have you done the same thing with faculties that have conservative opinions?
You know,
have you actually protected freedom of speech, or are you the leaders in censoring in our so-called, quote, elite institutions of higher learning? Are you the ones promoting censorship because, the other side is hate, and so they should be censored. So we're for freedom of speech as long as it isn't hate, and we get to define what hate is.
Right.
And hate is whatever we say it is, even to the point of going 180 degrees in the opposite direction, where we got to the point where the whole concept of anti-racism is racism.
Yeah.
That's how bizarro it is. So she's not sorry at all. What I saw yesterday, she's still going to keep her salary,
$900,000 a year,
and still keep her salary, still keep promoting the racist filth that is in the leadership of these higher institutions of learning, and that's what it is. It's racist filth,
right?
And it's this whole thing that, identity politics is the correct way to do things. We judge people by groups, especially the groups that we don't like, but we judge everybody.
Yep.
We'll even judge you. Oh, the color of your skin? You got the right color of your skin, but if you have this color of skin, you must believe this way, or you're not truly a person of that color skin, which is just the most bizarre and racist thing you could possibly say, but that's their belief.
Well, and for how long have they, been in place, and this mindset has been in place? You think about it, and people have ignored it. It was at one point, it was really only something that someone on the right was complaining about, and nobody else seemed to care until this. It goes back to October 7th and what I've been saying since. It separates the radicals from everybody else. It puts the spotlight on the radicals. And if you weren't watching before, I don't know what to tell you, but more people are watching now. Now, it may be an impossible task to completely change the culture and this kind of mindset inside of any given institution, especially one like Harvard or Penn, any of them. But as a society, more and more we reject these radicals, and you are hearing people speak out. How far that goes, look, I don't personally have any investment in Harvard. The audience is going, no duh. Mm-hmm. And it's really, because we thought all this time. But this is, this is about a society and also about those young minds that go there for an actual education. That's what I wonder about. And I said it, before. If you're a Jewish student on one of these campuses, I don't even know how to compartmentalize any of this. And these radicals are in charge, and they're not going anywhere. The titles are changing. The one at Penn, she's going to be a member of the faculty. She's not going anywhere. The President Gay is going to keep her salary. The mindset, the culture isn't going anywhere for now. We can be hopeful that it will change over the years. That isn't going to happen overnight because indoctrination didn't happen overnight. When you think about this, generations of indoctrination that became more and more radical to the extent that people were just proud of their anti-Semitism after October 7th is just bizarre. You think about it. It really is mind-boggling. It's like you're watching some wild movie that you're hoping will end sometime soon. But this is exactly what happens when you move in that direction. It could only have ended up here.
I think you've seen change, for example, in DEI in companies now starting to reassess it. I think part of that's because of lawsuits.
Yeah,
it's so DEI. Is so obviously bigoted and racist and stereotypes groups.
Yep.
Because we've seen it.
Yep.
That I believe litigation is where a lot of that is going to end.
I think you're
litigation
right.
is going to is what's going to stop that. But I don't believe it's going to change within the halls of higher education in the next decade, because, you said some people are speaking out about it. Yeah, you've got some in the Democratic Party saying, okay, we can't go along with this, but we can't be totally supportive of Israel. We have to ride this line. But underneath it is the racist filth.
Yeah.
And the anti-Semitism that exists and the pro-terrorist mindset that exists within the left. And it's not going away. It's not going away anywhere time soon, and part of the evidence is her resignation letter, which does not say, I am sorry for anything that I've had. It simply says everybody else is a racist, and we're not.
Right.
She's doubling down on it,
right,
believing that they're going to make a nice place. They're going to say, look, you got to go. Your personality, you got to go because it's just getting to be too much. We need somebody else in there who can soft sell it, but we're going to keep the same ideology, and you get to stay here, and you get to keep influencing Harvard with your racist filth.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be, and so we said before, I do believe that the left looks and says, look, we need to keep the mindset going. Personalities, I believe they look at the right and say the right is so caught up in personalities that we've gotten away with what we've gotten away over the last couple of decades of infiltrating into the government and bureaucracy, all this racist filth. And you've seen it. You saw it.
Yeah.
How many hundreds? 500 people in the Biden administration coming out and saying he shouldn't be pro-Israel on it.
Right. Oh, yeah.
The filth exists deep inside the government, whether it's a Republican president or a Democrat president.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
And so it's a long, hard fight ahead, like it's always been in humankind, to get rid of the filthy racism that exists out there.
Yeah, and it's, like you said, we're just beginning.
Yeah. 866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, we've got oh man, so much to talk about. Economic numbers and what we'll see coming out in 2024. The political landscape in 2024. Debates, town halls, monologues. The what?
Polls.
Oh, that's right, polls. Monologues, I meant for Ramaswamy because he said he's going to be doing something, but they don't know what. Like, okay, a monologue?
Yeah.
And he would do a good monologue, but CNN and Fox is all taken care of at the same time.
Right.
So it's going to be DeSantis and Haley.
Yeah.
By the way, was she the one that said, was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? No, okay, I had to say that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here this morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
You know, we could do a week of shows about everything that happened when we were off.
Yeah.
Because there was
No kidding.
there was so much off. You did see. I mean, as soon as between Christmas and New Year, the president may have been on vacation. Karine Jean-Pierre might have been on vacation, but they were trying to pound, the Democrats were, how great the economy was and why people don't see it.
Yeah.
It's really
Right.
got to be a joke at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's there's with each passing day, there's clearly a thought at the Fed now that we're coming into a recession. That and you and I were questioning, all right, well, why is everybody talking a drop in rates? Analysts were doing it first, and then it was the Fed that did a total 180 between two meetings and said, yeah, we could see as many as 3 rate drops in 24. Well, that means they're trying to avoid a recession. And if it's as early as March, the first rate drop, that's when you'll know. They'll know that a recession is coming in pretty hot, and they're going to and I am curious about, because it's one thing to raise interest rates. You know, if you do it 1/4 of a point, that's kind of the market can absorb that, right? If you do a 1/2 a point, it's like, whoa, they really want to slow down the economy. Well, on the drops, you're doing just the opposite. You're trying to prevent a recession. I don't know. I don't think inflation is even anywhere on their spectrum anymore. I think they just, well, forget inflation. Let's just do what we can to bring rates down, and hopefully more houses will sell, people will buy more vehicles or whatever it is, and people will go out, and business will go out and borrow more money. And so when they come in with a rate drop, my question is, and I guess when we get closer to it, we'll see more analysts come in, but is it going to be a 1/2 a point each time?
I'm amazed that they're still trying to sell the fact. Now, I will say this: Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday was big on the message that, well, it takes time. It's going to take time for you to feel it. Before it was,
right,
remember, it didn't work when they said, we can't believe that people can't see the great things that are being done. They stopped doing that at least yesterday, but it's something that we brought up. You know, the gaslighting, when you tell someone, they know what they're experiencing because they experience it every day.
Yeah.
And when you tell someone they're actually not experiencing it, and then you get on their case in an attempt to make them feel guilty for not buying into your lie,
Right.
that's when it becomes gaslighting. I mean, that's the complete equation of gaslighting, when you attack the people who know the truth and you are indignant because they won't buy into your lie.
Right.
And that's what was happening. But Dan McLaughlin had the thing in National Review about, the 4 reasons why, and that was number 1, the reality. You can't change reality.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Number 2 was the baseline problem, and this is where they talk about, I don't even know what it's up to now. 59 million jobs have been created since Biden took office, and it was pointed out, but he took over at the worst. He took over right at the worst. A vaccine hadn't been out yet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it just came out.
Yeah, it's been out
when he became
about a month.
But no regular person got it till like after the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm. I
know, because I was one of the first ones.
Right.
And so the baseline problem, trying to promote why people don't see it, because they know they just went back to work. You can't sell something based on COVID or based on what happened because the government was shut down. The third was the ideology problem. This is something that we really haven't investigated. We know it, but we haven't investigated it when it comes to this particular situation. But he writes, third, the ideology problem. Deeply ingrained in the progressive and liberal temperament, affecting the party's official and unofficial spokespeople, sympathetic journalists, and Democratic voters, especially young one, is economic pessimism. A focus on how the little guy is still hurting, even when times appear to be good. After all, if everybody's doing fine, who needs to expand entitlements, unionize, or demand public money for debt forgiveness, or complain about inequality, or blame corporate greed for high prices, or at the edges, howl about the hopelessness of a systematically racist system, or call for reparations, or daydream about revolution against late capitalism, and with a question mark, like what the hell's late capitalism? Mm-hmm. To brag about a strong economy is to undermine the public demand for the Democrats' own product, which is a great point. You can't say the economy's doing great and people are doing great, because your message is always, no matter how great it is, the only ones that are benefiting are the rich.
Right.
So that's a great point. And the other one, the fourth one, we mentioned this, though, the spokesperson problem. Democrats are having trouble getting people to buy their message because nobody buys the messenger anymore. Biden just is incapable at this juncture of persuading anybody of anything. And the more voters see or hear from him, the worse things get. And so, and that's the same thing with Karine Jean-Pierre or Kirby. People have turned them off completely. Well, nobody buys what they're trying to sell.
You and I have brought this up a couple of times, and it's all right. How long before Jean-Pierre, is no longer there? And it's, well, wait a minute. From their perspective at the White House, it's exactly who you want, because it just becomes womp, 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 and people quit paying attention. And that's exactly where we are. Kirby, the same thing. And I the slap in the face to the American people is only going to, get worse. That the pain from that kind of behavior and essentially, and the gaslighting that goes along with it, is only going to get worse. That pain right now, as we're going to get close to people's credit card bills starting to head from Christmas, that pain's going to come around. And now people are going to have to pay their debts. Now people are going to have to get back to, they're getting back to their jobs and their life, and they're still underwater. They took a break from it, but everything is back. And now political promises have to be made. The American people are still waiting for somebody to tell them, to say, it's going to get better, and this is how. They want to hear that. This is why Trump has the advantage with many people, and that is during his administration, during his years leading up to COVID, the economy was doing great. And people believe in their mind that if you change administrations, we can get back to that. And there's a great thought behind that. Now, I still believe that it's a huge, huge, heaping, steaming pile that has to be cleaned up. And I don't know how fast we get back to a great economy, but any new administration can walk in and undo all of Biden's administrative moves, and that's going to help. Deregulation is going to be a big deal. But before you get there, you've got to get to November 5th of this year. And people are waiting. They're sitting there waiting. We're sitting out here floating. We're underwater. We don't see any relief. And the thing, too, with, interest rates, if we're heading into a recession, they drop interest rates while inflation, the thing is I'm sure you saw over the break, well, okay, we're getting closer to that 2% inflation rate that the Fed was looking to target. But it doesn't bring prices down. And that's the problem. We're not going to have that spending power that we had back during the Trump years. We're not. Without a massive inflation of wealth, expansion of wealth, we won't have that kind of buying power. If the political will is there to put everything in place for that expansion of wealth, that's when you see it. That's when we really start doing great again as a nation and start thriving the way that we do best. But again, that's a long road between now and getting that done. That's a very long road. And people are waiting. They just want to go to their job. They want to get, enough money to make it. They don't want to be underwater. They want to be able to not have to make a choice between paying their light bill and their grocery bill.
I remember it was early on. It was probably the summer of 2021. Maybe it was the fall, where Peggy Noonan wrote, "Everything seems to be not working. Everything."
Yeah, everything is broken.
You see the border right now, and you see the Democrats now. Whether it was Adams the other day or who else was out promoting the fact that this is all because of Abbott. This is all because of Abbott. It's like, well, no, it's all because of Biden.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not going to work.
Right.
They've tried it before. It hasn't worked.
Right.
They still continue to do that. This is their own policies, but you look at, that and what a disaster that has become. While it was a disaster before, but even more of a disaster when we were on vacation. And then the whole Chinese spy balloon.
Yeah.
That came out, that it actually used an American internet service provider to communicate and transfer information through an American server.
Right.
And that the United States actually had to get a FISA warrant to go in to that server, service provider, the American internet service provider, to find out what was being transferred to the Chinese.
Right.
Through an American system. And the other story that the government had hoped and that Biden had hoped that they would never have, that they didn't have to tell the Americans. They didn't plan to tell the American public anything about this, this balloon satellite. They were hoping that it would just go across the United States and they wouldn't have to tell anybody.
Right.
Everything. There's nothing transparent about this administration at all. Nothing.
Right.
The whole thing of Democrats saying, we're about transparency, that's completely down the toilet.
That's gone. That's gone. And, but that's it. After the botched exit of Afghanistan, there was zero trust in this administration. There's zero trust in anything that they're telling us.
Well, I asked you this question, not on the air, but during a break here this morning. And I said to you, I said, who the hell's making these military decisions to go after these proxies of Iran?
Right.
Who's making this decision?
Right.
You're telling me the president, who can't even complete a sentence, knows everything about every single one of these proxy terrorist groups, and he is the one, by understanding what's going on in the Middle East with his great understanding of the Middle East, I'm joking,
yeah,
is making these decisions, or is somebody else making the decision? And I'm being serious
Well,
about
no,
that.
you'd be hard-pressed to convince me that he's the one making those calls.
Then who's making the calls? What have the orders been given to the Pentagon? The American public should know that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, normally you might not demand that the American public know it, but now that we know that this president will lie to the American public about what generals told him to do in Afghanistan, then you can't trust anything that comes out of it.
No.
You need to be extra transparent, and they've gone in the opposite direction.
Right.
No press conferences, vacation all the time. Nobody knows who's making a decision. Look, you and I talked about this before we went on vacation. How many times Kirby and Karine Jean-Pierre, well, you're going to have to ask that department. You're going to have to ask that department.
Right.
Well, they won't give us any answers. Well, we're not involved in that. You're the president of the United States. You represent the president of the United States. The buck stops everywhere with him.
Exactly.
And what they're trying to do is not answer anything by simply telling you, well, go to that department and ask them. Well, they won't answer. Well, then that's on them. No, it's on you.
No, it's on you.
And so nobody ever have to answer because it's always somebody else's damn job except the president of the United States to know what the hell's going on with the United States.
And you can't convince me that he's in charge of those decisions. There's just there's no convincing me of that.
I thought about that. It's like, okay, this thing's escalating. Is he making these calls? Who's making these calls to do this?
And it's not Kamala Harris.
No, I would think not. Did he take time? While getting the sunburn.
Yeah, and by the way, who's watching him? How the hell does that happen? How does it happen with anyone his age?
Yeah.
How does that happen without complete neglect? But that fits in. My question fits in with exactly what you were asking. Who the hell is in control?
Then the whole thing with Francis Collins, that thing too about COVID. Well, you have to, and that was a line of horse manure if I've ever heard it.
Garbage.
Well, we're scientists and we only look at one thing, and it was preventing this disease. We didn't look at anything else. We're so focused on the actual virus that we didn't think about the unintended consequences.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah, right.
We're so smart that we only look at one thing and ignore anything else in a disease. Well, we know that's not the case with any doctor. Anybody who's gone to the doctor knows the quality of life you're going to be living is extremely important to every doctor out there when talking about your medical care.
Yes, how you treat a disease or illness is everything, because sometimes the treatment can be worse than the disease.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Smart owner-operators make every single week as profitable as possible. One trip is not enough time to be considered profitable or unprofitable, and an entire month may be too much time to manage. 1 week is the right amount of time to deal with efficiently. To do so, look at the advantages and disadvantages of every day of the week. Match trip length to the optimum day of the week. Plan to deliver on the day you have the best opportunity of getting a load. Your personal weekly plan will vary depending on the weekly delivery flow cycle of your region, typical length of haul, personal requirements, and other factors. What's important is to have a specific weekly plan that helps you be successful. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. A bunch of articles also written about EVs.
Yeah.
When we were on, vacation, and so, that coming up. Like I said, we could do 3 weeks of shows on the 1 week we were out.
It was interesting that you had a couple of the OEMs say, "Yeah, we think we're going to bridge this whole thing, to ultimately, between now and the ultimate mandates." They weren't using the word mandates on EVs with different types of hybrid technology. And I thought, you're not getting any closer. It's not going to be less expensive. It's always going to be too expensive. The product is, and people won't be able to afford it. The demand won't be there.
Gary McNamara and Eric Harley taking your calls. 1-866-90-RED-EYE.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right. This was on State of the Union on CNN. This would have been, it has to be on Sunday.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Senator Chris Murphy. Talking about how you solve loneliness.
Okay.
You ready? Here we go. All right.
If you talk about loneliness, part of the policy is social media regulation, but it's also free time and leisure time, right? Giving people the space where they can go join a church or a social club. It's about connection.
Yeah, you want a 4-day work week.
I want a 4-day work week. I want more functional third places, right? I want more community pools, and I want more vibrant churches.
I'm sorry. What? Churches and community pools.
Yes.
That's what people are screaming for. Look, those of us who want churches have churches.
Right.
Community pools. What? Community pools.
This is where the left is right now. This is where the Democrats are right now. You started thinking about, you had Mayor Johnson come out and, saying reparations. We need, because of everything going on in Chicago, because of the crime, because of this, reparations.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. Follow California.
Yeah, go ahead.
Follow San Francisco. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
By the way, that the left is desperate when they're promoting that they want more churches.
Well, but you saw the panic.
Yeah.
You saw it from Adams, and then in New York City, and then Johnson. Reparations.
Yeah.
Okay, we need the federal government, and it's all Abbott's fault. I was up there. Nobody's blaming Abbott.
Yep.
And I was up there in the one county that is accepting the migrants in Western New York.
Right.
Nobody was saying it was Texas's fault.
No.
They're like, well, no, it starts with Biden. This all starts with Biden.
Yeah.
But it gets to the point where when you're saying the only thing to do, because what the left now is saying is to solve the problems, we have to do something that is impossible to do. Can't pay the reparations they wish to pay in the states that they wish to pay it.
Yeah. Look,
we've already seen it in San Francisco where they had to shut down the reparations office because they can't even afford to finance the office of it. And you saw Chevron, basically sending a letter to the state of California saying, we're not going to be doing business here anymore. We're looking for other states because the cost of business is just, too great. So, we're leaving. And so when Democrats start promising you or saying the solution is something that is impossible for them to do, then the only thing that they've got left is empty virtue signaling. They can't even throw the hypothetical that it will work because they can't get that type of money. And so what do they start talking about then? Issues that America does not look at the federal government to solve. Loneliness.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah.
We need to solve the problem of loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
We already blew that one out of the water. John Stossel did a thing on that saying, well, actually, when they talk about people who can depend on it, you find that capitalist societies are the ones where people say, well, I have people I can depend on. I have people that will help me. And they go, the place where you don't see it is non-capitalist society, where you don't see, the community, that's willing to give. But Murphy's saying he wants a 4-day work week to solve loneliness. This is how bad it's gotten for Democrats. You think anybody woke up on January 1st saying, doggone it, we need a 4-day work week to solve my loneliness problem?
Well, I mean, it doesn't work, first of all, in the math. So what you're saying is they need 20% more time at home? Isn't that where they're lonely?
Yeah.
How about a 6-day work week? Shut up, Eric. But these are the things that, they throw out there. What he's really getting to is we want more government mandated, business paid for time off. We want more paid time off as a matter of policy. We want to force companies to give people more time off and also pay them for that time off.
Well, the interesting thing is they've come up with a problem that nobody can qualify or quantify.
Right.
And then they come up with a solution that no one has tied one to the other.
Right.
That a 4-day work week would somehow solve loneliness. It's just a given because it sounds good.
Yeah. Well, did he just pick a word? Did he just pick something? It sounds like he just picked it out of thin air. The problem with plaque and tartar on our teeth is that
we don't have time.
We don't have enough time. That would have been more logical.
Our teeth are falling out because we don't have time to even brush our teeth because we have a 5-day work week.
We need to give people more time to brush their teeth and floss, of course.
Yeah, I think that, what the American public needs to have a better quality of life is an extra 24 hours to drink, smoke, and do more edibles.
Exactly. And make and alienate people in their lives. That's what we need. We need more time to do those things.
I mean, if you're going to play stupid and try to connect one thing to another, well, we can do the same thing.
Well, but here's the thing. While the basis for it certainly was bizarre, you look at, and there were more stories over the break and about the whole quiet quitting thing, and where people are. They have new names for it, by the way. Act Your Wage. I think we've talked about that one. That's one of the new things. We talked about, we did the story on what do they call it? The where you put your work badge on, you show up, you go into the coffee room, and people see you, in the morning making coffee. Then you leave for the day. Was it the badge showing or something?
Oh yeah, I saw that one. Yeah,
that thing?
Yeah.
And so, the thing is that employers are looking at it going, no. We need to know that everybody is in the office, and we need to know that they're working. And, this whole act your wage, the quiet quitting crowd. Well, that's great. But, at some point, your wage is going to be food stamps. Because employers are at the point now of, look, we're a productive society. If people want to be productive, they can be. And for those that want to be, they'll succeed. And we want them to work for us. Otherwise, we don't need them.
What I find fascinating, about the whole quiet quitting, or I like the badge one. Where you show your badge, go to the coffee machine, you show your badge.
Yeah.
Everybody sees it. You're there.
Right.
You grab your coffee. You head out. It's like, okay, they saw me there. But there isn't a job that I ever had where I sat there and said, I am only going to work to the wage that I'm being paid, whatever my analysis was for the wage, because once I got in a job, I wanted to learn as much as possible, because once we set the wage, and the wage was set in an agreement between me and the people that hired me.
Right.
I agreed to it.
Right.
And so at that point, I'm not going to whine and complain if I don't like it there. I'm going to search for a new job. But in the and that's going to make me, by the way, do whatever I can to make sure I'm looking great in the current job that I have, because I'm worried about my next job. And I'm also worried about not worried, but I also want to learn as much as I can in the position that I'm in, so I can ask for more in the next job because I've acquired more knowledge in that particular field. That's how I think.
Right. Yeah.
That's how I think the people that I know and hang around with and family and friends, they think that way. Right. To sit there and walk in and think, okay, I'm going to quiet quit and not try, and have no reference. There's no reference to what's going to happen next week or the week after or week after. It's simply, I'm so angry at my company, I'm going to quiet quit because they're taking advantage of me. Well, then fine, go find yourself a better position. But if that's the attitude you have, odds are you're not going to find that better position.
Well, that's it. It's you're not going to build that credibility by quiet quitting, and you build it, and it, back in the day we called it networking, but it is the word of mouth. People who have worked with you that say, "Wow, this person is really good at that. They're really good at whatever. This is the person you can count on." Those kind of endorsements that can only come from that type of experience, but it starts with the behavior of the individuals. Reading another story about from Business Insider, the golden age of the gig workers that were on the delivery apps. It's gone. They said, look, number one, in 2020 it was exploding because everybody was at home during COVID. But now it's gotten to where, okay, we're not, because of inflation and everything else, it's really expensive to order food on one of these delivery apps. It can be a lot more expensive than the actual restaurant. And then on top of that, the restaurant cost, even if you were to go to the restaurant, is higher. So people are cutting back on that. And many of these delivery app companies are not taking on new drivers. In many areas, they're basically working with what they have, and it's highly competitive. So if a delivery app driver gets if an order comes up, you better act on it quick, otherwise you can't make the money. And according to Business Insider, a couple of these, some of these workers they talk to, they say, a 9-to-5 job actually makes more sense. The gig economy is over, as we see it.
And I also saw, you saw the story in California about the pizza chain. As soon as the increase in the minimum wage happened, they fired, it was like 1,200 drivers gone.
Right.
No drivers anymore.
Right. And the thing is that the market is going to, decide what the demand and what the pricing is on everything. Once companies have to adjust, they can adjust by letting people go and raising their prices to the point the market will bear, or both. And when there's a cost to government, that's how it works.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. The other thing that came up, I heard, who was it in the Biden administration that's talked about irregular migration at the border? Because that was picked up on immediately. We're going to hear this now, irregular migration. I didn't hear it anywhere else except that one story. That just popped into my mind right now.
Yeah, I forget who it was that said it, but KJP a couple of weeks ago had they'd already been making the pivot, you could tell, trying to rephrase things. Well, there's always been a problem at the border. The southern border's always been problematic, as if nothing new is going on. Again, the gaslighting. Oh, this is nothing new. And actually, the president is the one that invited everyone here. The president and his administration changed the rules, changed immigration law. And, this is, this whole, I guess, pivot for 24. It's not going to work. It isn't going to work at all. And, Adams and anybody else who's pointing at Greg Abbott, sorry, you know the problem. And the problem is ignoring you, by the way, Mayor Adams. You know it all too well. The White House is ignoring you.
It's going to be a fascinating January. Really is.
Yeah, it is.
Wondering where the Republicans are going to go with Hunter Biden, which means Joe Biden. You say Hunter Biden because people are familiar with it, but their target is not Hunter, it's Joe.
Right. Yeah.
You were going to continue to see prices increase. The border's only getting worse.
Yeah.
And then what's happening in the Middle East, nobody is in favor for. By the way, we'll get to this. The debt now past $34 trillion.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like we're just passing trillions like very quickly now.
Yeah.
It seems like it would be a while that, normally it's a little while before you get to that next trillion. And now it's like within 6 months, okay, it's $1 trillion.
And 24 will be another record year in that regard. And that's the thing. That's the problem that, that we're in. Because there is no political will to stop the spending. There isn't.
No.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Good to have you here.
Yeah, it is. My New Year resolution is to not talk about New Year's resolutions.
I didn't hear people really making them seriously this year at all.
I didn't. It's always good to create a new habit, but I found it's always better to just do it when you're thinking about it and then put that new process in place and not talk about it. Because the problem is when you say, well, because it's a new year, I'm going to do this. Well, yeah, but tomorrow's a new day. You could do it then.
We're approaching a new minute.
Well, next hour's a new hour.
Yeah, I just when I read over the weekend quite a bit saying, well, a lot of people look at the new year and say this is time for a fresh start. Well, why did you wait?
Why?
if you're waiting for an arbitrary
start
date.
Well, that's the thing. I have the same thought because I'm thinking, well, you knew it was coming. Because of these things called calendars. So I don't know, in December, well, I'm going to keep doing the same crap for another month. A whole month of doing the same garbage I was doing all along that got me to whatever it is that you want to change. But that first day in January, I'm starting new. Look, You want to start a new habit? Start a new habit.
When I was young, and I've told the story to a couple of people over the last week, because I find it fascinating. I used to look at New Year, and I used to be sad. Remember, Guy Lombardo and the Royal Canadians were still playing on the networks, and when they're counting it down and they're talking about, the old year's just about gone, I was like, oh, the old year's gone. When I was a child.
Yeah.
Now New Year's doesn't mean anything to me, to be honest with you. It really doesn't.
Well, it's not.
It's like that and is the same thing. And now I will say that I've grown out of it meaning anything. It's almost like I used to, when I went on vacation, it was like, oh, thank God, vacation's here. I get to go on vacation. Mm-hmm. And then when vacation was ending, to be like, oh, no, have to go back to work again.
Yeah.
My emotions are the same now. There's no difference between vacation and working.
Right.
My mindset is always the same.
Mm-hmm.
And was probably why by the time I did nothing last Wednesday, by the time we got to Thursday, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to get back to work.
Well, I mean, think about the whole – go ahead.
Oh, but that same thing, I'm so glad I've got to that point where life emotionally,
yeah, right.
My mindset is the exact same whether I'm on vacation, whether it's last year,
right.
New Year, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. I mean, it's like it doesn't mean anything for the direction of where my life is going. That's up to me to determine it's time to change now, not to say, well, I'm going to change, but it's only Halloween.
Yeah, right.
Wait 2 more months.
I'm going to go through 2 more months of this crap. I'm really going to give it a good go too. Before I change it.
One of the great things is this goes back years ago, but we once had a sort of boss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I'll never forget that. One of us, it was like, we've all been gone for vacation. We would have a meeting. We would have a meeting by phone, like at 9:30 in the morning, which is very tough because, our boss back then worked during the day.
Right.
And, and we work at night. So 9:30 interrupted a lot.
Yeah.
I had to wake up early all the time.
Right.
In order to do the meeting. And they were basically useless.
Yeah.
The meetings were basically useless.
Yeah.
And one time it was like, we said, look, can we skip the meeting this week because we've all been on vacation? No, we need to have the meeting. So the meeting actually starts out this way. I think Brian was on the call.
Yeah.
It was Brian, you have a New Year's resolution. What's your New Year's resolution this year? So Happy New Year. What's your New Year's resolution? I don't have one.
Yeah.
And the other staff member, what's your New Year's resolution? I don't have any. Gary, what's yours? We're adults. We really don't make resolutions.
Yeah.
The same thing. Well, I guess nobody's going to cooperate, so that ends the meeting. And that was the end of the meeting. And I think he was no longer our boss like a week or so after that. He was gone.
It wasn't long.
Yeah, but it was like...
Yeah. The thing is
do not do a meeting with me on what my New Year's we're calling a meeting just so you can ask us what our New Year's resolution is. Are you out of your freaking mind?
One of the things, especially about working this shift, is that you've got to be productive. Everything has to count, right? You can't have those moments where you have those.
No, you're right.
Just kind of passing it around, going, well, and I understand that plenty of people actually do that, but there is very valuable time, and every bit of it during the week counts. So if I'm going to take that time, if I'm going to make that time, then every minute of that time has to count. Because I'm often, if I'm on a call, I put something else off that is required as to maintain this work and do this shift. And you really have to be very regimented in that regard, And first of all, the whole idea of a New Year's resolution. Well, let's think about it. You're taking the whole first day off. So, is it really something you're going to be dedicated to. But I mean, I think we as a society too have, and maybe it's why we didn't see much of it anecdotally, over this past weekend. Well, my New Year. Nah, if you want to start something, go start something. Look, I get all my tax receipts from the previous year, usually because we have that long break and it gives me something to do. And so I get everything ready for my taxes and then start organizing basically to keep them organized for this year. That's not a resolution. That's part of my personal business process that I go through. And I think a lot of people go through that. I just don't like getting caught off guard and by myself because I wasn't, I wasn't regimented in that way. Those are the things that I think as a society we look at and say, all right, what is it that we need to? I'm always looking, I guess, beyond me. But there are plenty of things that I can fix, and I'll go through that. But for me, it's about, all right, where does society go? And I think this is probably part of the mindset of those of us who, as we get beyond our middle-aged era in our life, you start thinking of, all right, how is that next generation going to think? How are they going to operate? What do they think about the fundamentals of our society? What do they think about the Constitution? What do they know about the Constitution? And those are the things that it's like, all right, if we're going to fix some things, let's see what really needs to be fixed. And I think a lot of people will look at it. And again, it's not like I'm saying, well, I'm perfect, I don't need to do anything. It's like, no, but I'm not the point. And I wonder if, and I'm just wondering this, if, many of us are just kind of aging out of that whole thing. We've lived for how many years now with social media being in play, where everybody is, if you're engaged in social media, at some point you're making it about you.
Over 10 years.
Yeah.
Over a decade. A generation.
Yeah.
Say. Yeah.
So it's been a good run. I don't know how long that kind of mentality lasts. I know that with my my oldest granddaughters, 2 of them are already done with high school. And they have no interest in social media. They have no interest in social media. Their smartphones are for looking things up and, gaining information, and it's not about social media for them. And so I think, that's promising. I don't know if they're, indicative of everyone in their generation, but we're talking 17, 18. One of them will be 19 here in a few months. And it is less about them. It's about what they want to accomplish. That's how they kind of measure their life and the things that they do, not just, their pretty smile. And those are the things that I think, if I was contemplating anything over the Christmas break, it was about, as a society, this is kind of why I was anxious to get into 24, because a major political season can show you many of the red flags, many of the things that are going, many of the, mentalities that are in play in our society. We're done, at least for now, with the rock star thing, to the extent that just the rock stardom can get you by. You're going to have the confidence in you to do what's necessary. There is certainly plenty of adoration for Donald Trump. We've seen it. But a lot of it is based on things that he accomplished. Without his first term, I don't know how much of that would still be in play.
No, that's a great point.
And so, those are the things. And with Biden, it wasn't idolatry at all. It was anti-Trump, and it wasn't about him in 2020. So now we're at that point going, oh, my gosh. Okay, we threw out the baby with the bathwater. And now many people are regretting it. And that's what I wonder is going on with the American voter, and what this might lead to in November. I think it's a wide range of possibilities. It could be another close race, although I don't sense that will be the case as of right now. Or it could be a complete blowout because things are so bad under Biden. And I don't know. Because it's hard to peg where the voter is. You know, we'll get into the breakdowns as we start going through the primary season and also more polling coming out of certain states.
I don't think it's at all the issues. I think the issues, it's absolutely clear where the American people stand.
Mm-hmm.
The American people are still caught up in personalities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, no, I think so, too. Yeah. 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 I think, and with that, I mean, Biden has zero appeal.
And I would say that the most of the focus on the personality would be from Democrats towards Trump.
Yes.
Who, when you and I,
you're either okay or not okay,
right,
with his personality.
And
right.
And again, the if you were to look at the other side, the people that support Trump and saying, well, they're only for him for his personality, I would say, well, that's a tougher sell to make that argument because there are things that he actually did that people liked.
Right. Yeah.
You know, there are some things I liked more of what Trump did than probably the average Republican president. Doesn't mean I don't have problems with things that he wanted to do. In fact, one of the things I was grateful for was the things that he had promised to do he didn't do.
Right.
Things that he's promising to do again.
Right.
Like the 10% tariff, which came up again over our vacation, where he's talking about that, which is pure idiocy. And Republicans are out there trying to sell it. And this is the fear of the populism, which is the populism that we can control the government and the economy better than the other side still is socialism.
Right.
Still get you to the same damn place.
Right.
Maybe down a different road, but you end up in the same place. And it's not good. And when people are concerned about prices, the idiocy of any politician talking about the fact of, because you might be able to sell tariffs at other times, as he was, to sell tariffs during inflation, saying, I'm going to increase your prices, is pure political lunacy that the president's doing right now. That's not making a difference in why people are supporting him. He could say he was for tariffs or against tariffs. I don't think it would move the needle at all.
I guess it comes down for many of them, the believability as to whether or not he's going to actually do it. I don't know. I don't know why it doesn't move the needle, because typically it would.
But if they do it, they will suffer the consequences in the election afterwards. If Trump is elected and they do that, because you have a 10% across, he'll have to drop it within 6 months.
I don't think it'll be that long.
You have to drop it.
Yeah.
And so the fact that we're going back again to what he promised but didn't do as much, he did some of it last time, but he didn't go as far as he wanted to go. But the fact is, the facts, and the Wall Street Journal lays out all the facts, go, look at this. This is what happened with the last Trump tariffs that the Biden administration has basically kept in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You have an advantage over here because you favor this business. These businesses get killed.
You pick your winners and losers, right? Yeah.
And anybody who believes that Trump can control the economy because he's a business person is an idiot. If you believe that, you're an idiot. Well, Trump can control the economy better. No, he can't.
No.
Stay out of it.
No. And aside from China, and I don't know where they'll go with China if he's reelected.
Right.
China is a very different game, though.
It's a different game.
And,
whole different game.
And it's going to require the entire international trade community to be on board along with the U.S. to put the pressure on China to fix that problem. And I still don't know if they can at this point.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. So, yeah, that's as we enter the new year, that's a worry that I have, that the Republicans will become too protectionist socialist as I like to call it.
Yeah, right.
It's the same thing. It's government believing that if they can control the capital, if they can direct the capital, they can do it better than the economy can.
Yeah, and that's always false.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is that the market will correct it. As you mentioned, look, it wouldn't take, if those 10% across the board tariffs went into place, 6 months tops. They'd have to be reversed because it would be a death knell for so many companies.
Yeah, that would hurt tremendously. But when you have that, Trump promoting that 10% tariffs. Think about this. While there is nothing, while the Biden administration cannot convince the American public at all that anything they're doing in the economy is right, it's based on what? Prices.
Yeah, sure.
Showing up.
Yep.
So for the Republican leader, as he is right now,
Mm-hmm.
when he talks, he's the one people are paying attention to, is talking about 10% across the board tariffs. If he becomes president, you've got Josh Hawley out there talking about price controls for credit card rates.
Right.
And they've got pretty loud voices. Yeah, I'm concerned about where the Republican Party is going.
Right.
Socialism by different means is still socialism.
Exactly. And it still gets you to the same place. It still gets you to a place where, again, you've got cost of government that is going to impact everyone. There won't be anyone who escapes that impact. And that's going to be, it's, I don't know where they, I guess my question would be, where do they believe they have the win on this? What kind of feedback are they getting?
It's worked before.
Well,
They believe they can sell it. Doesn't matter whether it works, they can sell it. Look, Trump admits.
Yeah.
Trump admits that ethanol subsidies are wrong.
Right.
But he can buy votes.
But politically, you got to do it.
Buy votes.
Yep.
Giving you 70% each night. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara on Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Listen when and where you want, in case you can't listen live overnight.
And thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's now, granted, I have a much bigger fear of Democrats gaining control, but one of the things I've talked about is if Republicans are going to be picking up a huge mess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coming, if they win in November, they've got a huge mess. And you've actually asked a few times, are Democrats hoping that Republicans actually win because Biden's made such a mess of things that the Republicans won't be able to fix it and Democrats will be right back in 2 years later in the midterms and then get the presidency back because it's almost impossible to fix to begin with?
If I were a Democrat, and I've been thinking this basically throughout all of last year, that thought was in my mind. If I'm a Democrat, I'm just thinking to myself, look, Joe's mess is so horrible, and we all know it. If the Republicans win, so what? They won't be able to fix it in 4 years, which sets us up in 28. They're not going to be able to fix this in 4 years.
The problem that we have as we enter this year is you saw a $34 trillion debt is what we have.
Mm-hmm.
Doing this off the top of my head, just to make it close, right now, the situation this country's in is as if you're somebody who's making $42,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Last year you made $42,000, you spent $62,000. This year it's going to roughly be about the same thing. You've got unsecured debt of $340,000.
Yeah.
That, you can't file bankruptcy on.
Right.
You got to pay it off.
Right.
And you have another $1 to $2 million in bills that must be paid coming down the pike. That's the situation the country's in right now.
And you're getting closer to not being able to even pay the interest payments on your debt.
Well, we can pay the interest on the debt, but the fact is...
But we're getting closer to not being able to do that every single day.
Right. To me, the bigger problem is the fact that the public is going to start feeling the fact that you either start cutting things or you get yourself into that, as we call it, the cycle of doom, where you can't cut anything. You've already spent it, so you just keep borrowing more and more and more and more as interest rates continue to get higher. And who is to say that as the United States gets in a more perilous situation, that countries are going to be willing to buy our debt for, just to stay even.
Right.
In fact, actually fall behind with inflation. Because of, what inflation has been over the last couple of years before. For example, Treasury bills started paying more. But you've got all this debt that has to be bought by someone.
And you've got to make it attractive. Yet, we're talking about cutting interest rates this year.
If you cut interest rates, will interest on the debt automatically come down? Now that we find ourselves in this particular situation.
Right.
Because remember, you're going right back then to what helped cause this. Because the next thing would be, we need to get back to the fact where the Fed prints money to buy our own debt.
Well, no, I mean, that's the problem that you and I saw when at the last meeting, Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, starts indicating interest rate cuts in 24. Well, I've never believed that he was serious about inflation. So you're not really getting on top of the problem. You're going to get back into the cycle of creating the problem all over again.
I saw it over the weekend again. It comes up every couple of months now. Well, the United States borrowed $2.4 trillion and has never paid it back. If we pay back the money to Social Security, everything will be fine. People are clueless. That money is being paid back, had to be paid back by federal law. They can't skimp on that. When you get to 2023 or whenever they say it's going to go, that's when all of that has been paid off.
Right.
But no, the United States, it's like they didn't steal. They took out IOUs that have to be paid back. They are being paid back in order to keep Social Security benefits the way that they are. It's coming out of the general fund, though. But that shows you people don't know. They just say, well, just fund it. Nobody cares about the numbers behind it.
Right.
It's just funded, and that's the problem that Republicans have and are going to have, as right now, Republicans are talking about the fact we need to shut down the government. Well, if you shut down the government, who gets the blame for it? Because the public will tell you, we want fiscal restraint, just don't cut anything that we get.
Which is, don't cut anything.
Don't cut anything, right. And that's where we are. And Republicans are basically the same as moderate Democrats. I won't compare them to all, but we saw that with Obamacare. Republicans couldn't think about that. They couldn't repeal Obamacare.
Well, going back to 2016, and that was the promise. We're going to finally do away with Obamacare. They win. And in 2017, we're just going to do away with the funding part of it. We're not going to do away with the benefits of it because our constituents tell us not to. And that's what everybody came down to.
Yep.
Politically, you couldn't get it done. Otherwise, they would have.
And that's the problem right there. So you've got Republicans who, on the issues, slam dunk. That here are the identified problems. Here's our solutions. Well, Trump's first solution, the thing he's promoting the most, is a 10% damn tariff on everything, which will be reciprocated on us.
Yeah. Well,
and the fact is, by the way, he would have to He'd have to pull out of the WTO to do that, by the way. We'd have to pull out of the World
in
Trade.
order to get to get it done, he would have to do some things that are highly unprecedented, and so there's little doubt that he could get it done across the board. The problem is, if you start coming in and saying, okay, well, we'll start with this. Remember the steel tariffs? That was created on the fly. I mean, he was visiting a steel plant, and everyone was like, whoa, what just happened? And so you can't come in with any kind of sweeping plan because you just can't. Logistically, it's not going to happen that way. So you have to come in and start picking and choosing, saying, okay, we're going to go after this, this, and this. And then all the dominoes on our side start to fall with the producers here domestically, and that's where the pain is. That's why 6 months tops. It would have to be reversed.
We said consider the steel jobs from the Wall Street Journal over the weekend. Employment in iron and steel mills, manufacturing compared with when Trump announced his metal tariffs in March of 2018 is up 800 jobs or 1%. Yet in the same period, employment in all steel product manufacturing from purchased steel fell by 1,600 workers or 2.8%. This reveals what tariffs often do in real life, which is rob some anonymous Peter to pay some politically powerful Paul. In their earnings calls after nearly a year of Mr. Trump's metal tariffs, steel makers bragged about record profits, while Whirlpool, Caterpillar, and others lamented new costs. Ford pegged its annual hit at $750 million, and the profit-sharing checks sent to its factory workers were 10% lower because of the tariffs, the Detroit Free Press reported. The public also foots the bill for the tariffs. But let's take it even in a simpler fashion. If you're the political party that wants to win, and your number one candidate who's up a mile in front of everybody else, and the one thing that's killing the Democrats is inflation, and the number one thing that your top leader is promoting from the Republican side is to raise prices at least 10% across the board as soon as he becomes president, and there isn't an outcry from Republicans because everybody's afraid to confront Trump on it, and Josh Hawley's out there with his own, remember back in 2020 or 2021, Josh Hawley wanted to get rid of the World Trade Organization completely. Even the Trump administration was against that at that point. And you talk about him with price controls. Josh Hawley, you have two of the loudest voices from Republicans promoting populist socialist plans to save the economy, which would raise prices.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's just when the number one thing is prices being raised and the number one thing you're promoting as the opposition is definitely raising prices by at least 10% across the board, there's some kind of disconnect in there where it's like issues mean nothing to Republicans.
Can you imagine 10% inflation on everything?
On everything? It's not going to happen. But the fact that you're promoting it as the number one thing
it's why
you're going to do.
The reason that it can't happen is the very reason as to why you shouldn't promote it.
Be promoting it, right. Is because it would be economically devastating. So what's the political genius driving that one in the Trump administration? Is it Lighthizer again? Wall Street Journal blames him. Says he's out there saying, well, if you want everything to be perfect. No, I just don't want government. I don't want government trying to run a damn economy, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat.
Well, because we start hearing those words even and fair. Well, the fair part of it will be, okay, we're also putting 10% tariffs on your products, which means our domestic producers start to feel the pain. We've been through this repeatedly. We know how it goes.
And here's Lighthizer. Mr. Trump's chief tariff strategist recently dismissed such studies as biased in favor of trade. In the face of clear economic evidence, his response is to close his eyes to it. He said, quote, if all you chase is efficiency, if you think the person is better off on the unemployment line with a third 40-inch television than he is working with only two, then you're not going to agree with me, he told the New York Times. My view is production is the end, and safe and happy communities are the end, and you should be willing to pay a price for that. That's the BS of every politician who wants to play social engineer to a continental nation of 330 million. If preserving one Ohio job in steelmaking kills two Michigan jobs in steel manufacturing, well, it takes breaking eggs to make a protectionist omelet. Pressed to react to studies saying the jobs saved via tariffs cost the public nearly $1 million apiece, Mr. Lighthizer praises the virtues of inefficiency. Forget the drain on a productive economy and the lower living standards that result. They can't even defend it without stupidity.
Right. Yeah.
Or just patriotic rhetoric. We're for the American worker.
Right. And it doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't.
You're hurting the American worker because there's no way that our trade partners don't retaliate.
Yeah, you raise prices.
Yep.
And then they retaliate.
Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Just taking a look at what's going to happen, what might happen in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Republicans have on all the major issues. Republicans have the lead. The one thing that Republicans even have the lead on is spending, where Americans say they don't want spending. They believe we're spending too much, but the problem is Americans don't want any cuts.
Right.
And we're at the point now where the interest rates, the interest rates have led to now $1 trillion interest payments a year on the debt.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be $250 billion. That's $750 billion in cuts you're going to have to make. And if you don't make those cuts, you simply add more to the debt. And that's the problem. Yeah. And the Republicans should be constantly explaining this to the American people, which they are not.
No, they're not talking about it.
No, they should be messaging this in commercials.
Yep. And it should have been, well, all along they should have been getting this point across. And they haven't even started.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Happy New Year. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
You know, I did find out over the weekend, though, and this would have been on January 1st. I woke up January 1st, and I'm like, okay, not going to do much.
Right.
Sit around the house, see what I can, do for show prep, whatever, and, watch some sports.
All right.
Now, it was a little over a year ago where I cut the cord completely.
Right.
No sports channels, nothing. My, what a culture shock it was. And it started earlier in the day when a buddy of mine, Leafy, I was talking to Leafy, and Leafy said, he goes, the Oregon game's on. The Oregon game's going to be on soon. Then you got hockey later on, the outdoor hockey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like, all right. And there should be a bunch of other football games that are being played today, too.
Right. Yeah.
On all of the, and all I get for sports is all the major networks and Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. That came out of the 80s. All the major networks, including Fox.
Yeah.
You can tell I'm dated. You can tell I'm old just by saying that.
And
because I wasn't insulting Fox. That's what you said in the 80s. All the major networks and Fox. And the early 90s.
Had they even filled out their primetime programming yet completely early on? I don't know if they had a full primetime on Fox television. I have to go back and see what it looked like and what they were showing.
Married with Children.
Mm-hmm. Simpsons. Yeah. I think that was it.
Oh, no. No, the comedian, the woman comedian had like her own variety show.
Oh, that's where the Simpsons came from. What's her name? I'm blanking on her name.
Yeah.
The British comedian.
Yeah. She had a show early on too.
Yeah, that's where the Simpsons came from.
Oh, okay.
Right. It was a little short feature on her show.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just can't think of her name. So that would have been 3.
Who, Brian?
Tracy Ullman.
Yeah, Tracy Ullman. Yeah. Thank you, Brian. Yeah. Yeah,
but how did they fill everything during the week? Because that's
I love Lucy reruns. I don't remember.
But what I found out is that CBS, NBC, ABC, and Fox, January 1st, one football game. That was it the entire day. And it was the Tennessee-Iowa game. That was a blowout.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
Hockey wasn't on. Hockey was always on, I believe, the outdoor game. Remember, that was a network thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was like on NBC. Because, it's so unusual.
Yeah.
Nope. No sports on January 1st, which means, and I'm like, yeah, because they want you to pay for it somehow.
Right.
Everything is subscription-based. And it was interesting because at the same time when we were on vacation, the NBA Board of Commissioners, whatever the owners, approved the sale of the Mavericks.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that Mark Cuban was talking about in the days after it was announced that he was selling the Mavericks. And that was that the TV money has changed drastically. Everything is streaming. And so now you have to get into the game of, working, I don't know how many deals for each league or each team. And man, I don't know what all that entails, but it is not the big TV money that it used to be. It's still very big money, but it's not the money it used to be.
And not like the NFL.
No, nothing even close.
Nothing like the NFL is. By the way, very quickly again, again, there were cries that the NFL is fixed. The NFL is fixed. It's all rigged. It's all rigged. It's all rigged. It's all rigged. And Eric and I will say it again, then stop watching.
Yeah, right.
If you're positive it's rigged, why are you watching?
Right. If you don't believe it's real, then don't watch it.
But I did read a good article saying, but it doesn't matter because the perception is that the NFL is so closely now associated with all the gambling companies now involved with betting on the NFL that this isn't going to go away.
Yeah.
Because they're going to say the betting money, the NFL now wants the betting money, too. They want to be involved in that and have those companies as their sponsors. Therefore, I got a couple of buddies who are retired. This would never be me, but they sit at home and online, gamble on players, which players are going to do this and what players are going to do this, what the final score is going to be, and they bet money on it. not a great deal of money, but it's something that, they're not harming themselves financially.
Right.
But I can't imagine doing that.
I don't even know how any of it works, and it would just that's a I don't know. It's totally foreign to me.
But you look at it, and I think Cuban in that statement also said real estate was where the money is, and it got me thinking. You know what it got me thinking of? Got me thinking of when I watched The Founder with McDonald's, where they kept opening up McDonald's franchises. Like, well, we're not making a great deal of money on this. We've got all these, franchises. Like, no. You think you're in the food business. You need to be in the real estate business.
Right.
You own the properties that they do it on. That's where you make the money.
Right.
And I started thinking about where's, we talk about this all the time. Where's sports going? From the time when I was paying $3 end zone seats.
Yeah.
That I could afford to go to an NBA game or an NFL game and get relatively good seats. And I was in high school. I could get it off my paper route. I guarantee you can't get a quality seat at an NBA game or an NFL game with money that you make from your part-time job in high school.
Yeah.
And, you and I have looked at the amount, and I haven't checked recently to see what it is. I'm talking about 10 years ago, where I was finally like, you got to be kidding me. This is just ridiculous. The money that people pay. I don't know why. Because I grew up playing sports, loved sports, everything else, and they lost me. A lot of it was the, 2020 and Kaepernick, but more of it is that I just don't seem to have that much of an interest anymore in it. And I'm not going to pay, even though I can afford it. Now, when I can afford it, I look at it and go, I'm going to pay that for that ticket to go through everything I need to go through. If I'm walking into a stadium of today, no, I'll sit at home. I'm not going to do it. Or one basketball game and pay $300 a ticket for a basketball game.
Yeah.
I won't even do that for a concert. What was it? A couple of years ago. Remember when Eric Clapton and Crossroads was coming here to play at American Airlines Center?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I got the pre-buy through my credit card.
Right.
The cheapest I could find anything. And it was a 2-day thing. It was $1,600. Like, you're out of your mind. When the tickets were there, I could afford. I would have had a great time. I can afford that now that I should be retired and I'm still working. I can afford those kind of things. And I looked at it and I said, nope, the value isn't there.
Yeah, but you get into, when you get into sports, then you get into, all right, diehard sports fans, but then also families and everything else. The ones who aren't season ticket holders. You've really got to come up with a little cash to go to a game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You want to go to a game now? Most of the time, if you want to go to a single game, you're buying it on the secondary market.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to cost you.
No, I just and again, I mean, if people are willing to do it, that drives the market. I'm not whining and complaining and saying this is what the Republicans need to promise that they'll lower. If Biden can do it, junk fees, we're getting rid of junk fees. And have they got rid of any junk fees yet?
No.
The Republicans, we're going to make it affordable to go to the ball game again. Not really. No, you're not. But I wonder, is that the beginning of the change of the business model when Mark Cuban gets out and says, I need to cash out at a profit because this is turning into more, I'll still be involved in it, and I'm a minority stockholder, and I want to be involved in the whole thing that they eventually get involved in, but that's all real estate, and that's all dependent on gambling too.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing too, is that with the types of sponsorships changing, how does it change the game? And if you're changing the game in any way, or if there is a perception that the game has been changed because of the nature of the sponsorships, then that changes the viewership. That changes your fan base. There's no way it doesn't. And then how do you adjust to that?
And that's where, because you've heard it, especially the last month, that the NFL's rigged. I mean, because somebody,
right? Yeah.
What was it? The Detroit game the other day, the Dallas, all that it's rigged and this is unfair and it can only be rigged because of this and it's rigged and it's rigged. And then I saw, and it's rigged, and we know it's rigged because the NFL's getting involved now with all these gambling companies. And I went, whoa. Now, there is no evidence that it's rigged, but you just opened the door for the perception that it can be rigged by stating that, well, the NFL's involved now with all these gambling companies.
Right. And if that is the perception, that theory right there, because the game is rigged, has been around for decades, for the ages.
I'm a Bills fan, so every year it's rigged.
Right, but it is
against us.
Now, truth be told, it is rigged against the Bills, and we all know why.
Oh, that's it, from the X-Files.
Yeah, exactly. But when you tie it to something like that, it's kind of it's more of a modern part of the equation, the whole sports gambling thing. And so now there are so many people, because that's the thing, is that, well, who wouldn't be interested, have a special interest for this team winning or that team losing? When you build out that theory or thought in someone's mind, that's going to change how they think. That eventually will change how they behave. If they really do believe it's rigged. If they believe, well, it's only going to go one way. It doesn't mean that it is. But if you're building that perception and then giving them a stronger basis for their conspiracy theory or whatever you want to call it, then expect that is going to change their behavior at some point. There's no way it doesn't. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't get the whole sports gambling thing. Even back in the day when you had to go to, Vegas or down the street to a bookie. But now that it can be done right there at the palm of your hand, and it was bound to have some kind of impact on people's belief about the game when their game doesn't go their way. How does it not? How does it not start to build that conspiracy theory or whatever, that theory all over again?
Well, everything's rigged.
Yeah, right.
Everything's rigged. You don't stand a chance because it's rigged.
Right.
It's rigged in your job. It's rigged in the economy. It's rigged in sports. It's rigged in politics. It's rigged in elections. Everything is rigged.
But when you introduce legalized gambling as a part of that equation, then you give more of a foundation for
the perception,
that platform for them to leap off of.
Yep.
Again, it doesn't mean it's true. It just means that their perception is their reality, which is always the case.
Well, you connected a dot as to the incentive to rig.
You gave it something. You gave them something real to point to.
Right. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on road inspections. Roadside inspections all begin with the driver interview, during which the officer will gather basic information from the driver and prepare the driver for the inspection. The officer will also be evaluating the driver, determining if the driver can speak English, is under the influence of anything, has an illness, or is fatigued. The officer will ask the driver for required documents, including vehicle and driver credentials, the driver's log, and shipment paperwork. The officer may also conduct a vehicle inspection. Before beginning the inspection, the officer will take steps to make sure the inspection can be done safely. These include chalking the wheels, wearing personal protective equipment, and explaining what will be required of the driver. The driver needs to pay close attention to these instructions so that the vehicle inspection can be conducted in a manner that is safe for the inspection official. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Speaking of sports, you saw that, was it USA Boxing? Says men can fight against women.
Okay. Your trainer and your lawyer will be in your corner.
Yeah.
Ladies.
Yeah.
Because
that's pure insanity. I mean,
that's
absolute insanity. It's just insanity.
But did it have to get to this point to demonstrate? Because now it's going to play out, and there's no way someone doesn't get really hurt.
And I'm thinking to myself, is that sport dying so bad that they actually did this to get some type of publicity? That hey, maybe a man beating up on a woman can get us a better audience.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Because I don't
it's
know.
Bizarre.
I can't. If I had any interest in boxing, which I really don't, but if I did, that's not going to make me watch.
No.
No, excuse me. That's not going to make me pay to view.
Oh, well, yeah.
Because it's not about watching, it's about paying to watch.
Right.
Boxing used to be on regular TV. Tell me the last time boxing was on regular TV.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's I don't even know. I mean, with the advent of pay-per-view now,
yeah,
it's like, are you willing to pay to watch the fight?
No.
And I'm not willing to pay to watch a fight of any kind.
Yeah.
I'm just not my thing. But it used to be TV.
Well, the thing is,
remember, Muhammad Ali was all over. Well, Muhammad Ali and Howard Cosell. That back and forth between those two things. I mean, there was
no cable.
Well, no, and the famous line, down goes Frazier, down goes, those moments that were created, and now, of course, then pay-per-view. Oh wow, we can broadcast it over here, and then people will pay to get access to that. And now with streaming and everything else, it's a split. It really is a split audience. You have to search to find it.
The fourth branch of government. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara on Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Wow, we can't move forward, still covering stuff that happened while we were on vacation.
Yeah.
And this audio, this actually came out. This was from a COVID discussion this summer for Braver Angels, which is an outfit, according to the Wall Street Journal, that aims to bridge political divides. And on here was former National Institutes of Health chief Francis Collins. And here's what he had to say about that time when they weren't, well, for example, the Great Barrington Declaration, that both he and Dr. Fauci did everything they could to try to discredit what was going on there. And remember, that came out in October of 2020. That was 6 months down the road. You had places like the Wall Street Journal in March of 2020 saying, we need to be careful on any type of lockdowns because of the repercussions of it, because of the collateral damage. And anything like this, you have to go back and look at history and say, did this work or not? Listen to Collins here. Listen to his excuse, which, by the way, I don't buy at all. Here we go.
As a guy living inside the Beltway, feeling this sense of crisis, trying to decide what to do in some situation room in the White House with people who had data that was incomplete, we weren't really thinking about what that would mean to Wilk and his family in Minnesota, 1,000 miles away from where the virus was hitting so hard. We weren't really considering the consequences in communities that were not New York City or some other big city. The public health people, we talked about this earlier, and this is a really important point. If you're a public health person and you're trying to make a decision, you have this very narrow view of what the right decision is, and that is something that will save a life. Doesn't matter what else happens. So you attach infinite value to stopping the disease and saving a life. You attach a zero value to whether this actually totally disrupts people's lives, ruins the economy, and has many kids kept out of school in a way that they never quite recover
Collateral
from.
damage.
So collateral damage. This is a public health mindset, and I think a lot of us involved in trying to make those recommendations had that mindset, and that was really unfortunate. It's another.
Sorry, I don't buy it.
Nope, not for a second.
Wall Street Journal says this was precisely the argument we made on March 20th of 2020. Think about that.
Yeah.
Rethinking the virus shutdown. Everybody was analyzing whether it was the right thing to do to shut down even for 2 weeks.
Right.
Because this is precisely the argument we made in March of 2020 for politicians not to accept the lockdown advice of public health officials as gospel. They think too narrowly, and political leaders have to consider the larger consequences for policy for the public good. Dr. Collins' mini mea culpa still doesn't make up for his collaboration with Anthony Fauci to discredit the Great Barrington Declaration, which advocated a strategy of focused protection on the elderly and vulnerable while letting younger people at lower risk continue with their lives. Nor does the former NIH head apologize for trying to censor different health policy advice. He acknowledged in the COVID discussion that the declaration could have been a great opportunity for a broad scientific discussion about the pros and cons of focused protection, but then he blames the declaration's authors for short-circuiting the debate by trying to change national policy without first consulting public health officials. Who really shut down that debate? They did, not the Great Barrington Declaration. You and I know that when it came out, and they had doctors saying, here's what we believe should be done. Yep. Because they weren't willing to discuss, and by the actions of Collins and Fauci trying to shut down the Great Barrington Declaration, they didn't go and say, well, we wish you would approach it a different way, but you bring up some good points. You were saying it was bogus, what they were bringing up.
They threw the whole thing out.
Yeah.
They were treated basically as radicals.
Yep. And by the way, I don't buy it. Because as we know, if the entire public is discussing whether lockdowns are right or not, and there were doctors, because these were doctors in the Great Barrington Declaration.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're saying is, if you're in the medical profession, you only look at a very narrow cast. You have complete tunnel vision as to the virus in this. That's a load of horse manure. Anybody who's had any doctor and had any type of disease knows that when you talk to your doctor, any type of collateral damage, if you wish to call it, or any type of, oh my gosh, go to any drug that's out there.
Well, I was going to say, if you get into
the
the
effects of a
pharmaceutical
drug
stuff, then how many disclaimers do you have? The list of side effects. And it's that way when you're sitting and talking with your doctor about the treatment. Okay, here are options. I don't like this treatment. My doctor does it all the time. I don't like this treatment because of this. So we're going to start with this. I don't, and if you notice this, then call me right away because we need to change it.
Right. And we had constantly, what are the side effects? What are the side effects? What are the side effects of this? Everything was okay. It may help here, but it might hurt over here. As a doctor, I have to consider that. And Collins is trying to give the absolute bull crud. The no, doctors aren't like that.
Yeah. Right.
No, but it's not because you're a doctor. It's because you're a bureaucrat, you're a politician. That's what happened. You became a bureaucrat politician with liberal leanings who didn't want to hear anything else except what you were promoting.
Well, and it stayed that way for the longest time. You couldn't even discuss it on Facebook in terms of the lab theory.
Right.
You couldn't, there were things you couldn't say out loud. This is exactly the way they approached it. We're going to squash any discussion that is not going along with the line that we're feeding everybody. We're going to shut it down.
Soon after the declaration was published online, remember, this was October. Dr. Collins emailed Dr. Fauci calling for a quick and devastating published takedown of its premise.
Yeah.
Within a few days, public health associations attacked the declaration. By the way, the declaration was right. Dr. Collins said during the COVID panel that he regretted using the words takedown, but not calling the declaration dangerous.
Yeah.
The lockdowns did tremendous harm that we are still living with. That and the effort by Dr. Collins and Fauci to shut off all debate is a major reason why the public has lost trust in public health experts. But that, by the way, that was this past summer, and it just leaked out apparently, or got out. I don't know why it took that long to get out.
Yeah.
You would want to promote that, would you not?
Yeah. Look, it's something that many of us suspected all along. And then to go back and pretend, oh, no, all we were doing is just focusing on, this is how we do it. We just focus on saving a life. Every other consideration just falls away. Are you kidding me?
He's lying.
That is not at all the approach in the medical community at all.
No.
Ever. Nope. You had one vision politically, and that was it, and you stayed with it.
We know that because other doctors early on were saying, no, this is the wrong way to go.
Right.
And we're talking 6 months later.
Yep.
Almost 7 months later. When the Great Barrington Declaration came out, and you said it was dangerous, you said it was wrong, and they were right, and you were wrong. Now he's trying to back off and say, well, it's because we're just hyper-focused on one thing. You're lying.
Well,
you're a liar.
It's the virtue signaling and gaslighting all over again. Look, we care. We care about people. It's why we do it. It's why we did it that way. We just cared about people. No, you cared about your agenda. And you thought you had found a way to gain ultimate control. And they did for a while. They had ultimate authority. Not anymore. Well, it's just because we care, just because,
We cared too much.
That's
but that's the ultimate virtue signaling.
It really
we
is.
screwed up completely, but we screwed up because we care so much that we're hyper-focused and we actually don't do our job, which is to look at everything, look at not just the virus and the cure to the virus, but anything that we do, what the collateral damage may be that will cause harm or the loss of life. No, we didn't consider that because we didn't consider about other losses of life or how this would affect the quality of life or education of kids. We didn't look at the science of COVID with children. Because we care so much. We care so much that we ignore everything else. That's what he's trying to sell.
Yeah.
Jeez. They're doctors. Don't they have any type of, is there no conscience?
If you're not a doctor first, if you're completely corrupted by the power grab, which there was no way they weren't, then that's where you go. That's the road you go.
The power grab, the attention.
Oh, yeah.
As my father said, you get a title and you believe you've got an infusion of brains, but all the attention is put on you as the experts. So what you say is right, you got to hold on forever as being right, which is completely against what the medical profession and science does to begin with.
Yep.
My doctor is the first one to say, we believe this study shows this, but not sure over here.
Right.
My doctor isn't afraid to say that.
No, it's, in fact, I hear it both. If I don't hear both when I'm talking to my doctor about anything, then I would get suspicious. If my doctor didn't say to me, okay, we can do this, and here's the concern with that approach. If I didn't hear both, laying out side effects, it's been known to cause, this or that. My doctor will even go as far as to, because she's aware of what I do for a living. Well, can't have that while you're trying to broadcast to people. So, this medication might cause a little, cough in, or tickle in your throat, and you're a broadcaster. So we don't know that one's going to work. But, here's and she lays it out.
Yeah.
Always has.
Here, Eric, smoke this. It will really help the symptoms.
Yeah.
And start at 5 to 12.
Yeah.
But I have a radio show. We're not considering any of those other things.
Yeah. Look, listen, just do it. I'm trying to save lives here. It's because we care.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, we reached a benchmark. The U.S. national debt tops $34 trillion for the first time.
All right, we did it. Congratulations, everyone.
Hit $34 trillion on Friday afternoon.
Wow. I thought I felt something.
We're beginning a new year, but our national debt remains on the same damaging and unsustainable path, said Michael Peterson, CEO of Peter G. Peterson Foundation that advocates for fiscal sustainability. We're looking for sustainability in nothing. We claim we are, but we're not looking for sustainability in anything. The environmentalists aren't, and we're not looking for any type of fiscal sustainability either.
No.
The historic debt level comes as Congress faces races to finalize critical funding bills in order to prevent a government shutdown. So be interesting to see how the Republicans play this one.
Well, there it is. Politically, where do you go with this?
Public's not ready to cut yet.
Nope, they aren't. You have a small group of us conservatives,
yes.
And that's it. That's it. So where else do you go? What else can you do? I don't know. I honestly don't know. When much of your own base is going, yeah, we don't want to hear it. And there's really no way to get around it. At some point, you're going to have to roll back spending. Politically, how do you start rolling out that plan?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.